Hey guys, my name is John Park and welcome to Intro to Form Language. In this tutorial, I'll be covering some of the basic things regarding form language, shape design, and how to apply that into your subject matter. So let's get started. So typically, form language, it's a term that's been used and thrown around in the design community. And I guess the question is, what is form language, right? Because it's something that's not common to your average person, and it's such a conceptual term that's used as a designer or an illustrator. But when it comes down to the basics, what is form language and what does it represent? So I want to show you guys some examples, and these are some character designs that I thought kind of showcased really good use of form language and shapes. And obviously we all know Mickey Mouse, a very iconic design of the Disney franchise. Actually, all of them are Disney. But notice how Mickey Mouse uses the shapes as circles, right? To kind of compose what Mickey Mouse, the character design, is made up of, right? So we know that visually, when we see this, whether it's a silhouette or a blur, we know that this from a distance, we understand that this is Mickey Mouse. And that's what kind of makes the design a very, very successful and iconic and well understood design, because of this particular use of circles. And right here to the right, we have Wreck-It Ralph, the two main characters of the film. And I thought this was a perfect example of showcasing how we have the difference between a very square character and a very round character, right? You can see that these two characters have such a contrast, just not only based on the visuals, but also the personalities. And the visuals just help reinforce that kind of relationship, right? We have a circle and a square, and that's the kind of contrast that this film used. And same with here, with Up, we have the same exact example. We have a square, and we have a very circular character. And even within the square, you can see that, you know, the character here has a square head, square ears, square glasses. But check this out, he has a circular nose. And the reason why the character actually has a circular nose is so that there is some sort of relationship between the two, right? So when you look at this character, Russell's very round. There's a lot of round features, right? Round mouth, round nose, round eyes, all these round little things around his tassel or this little belt. You know, and the only thing that's really square are these subtle elements, like the patch on his arm, the belt, you know, some indication that, you know, even at certain points, his facial expression actually gets pretty round as well when he's upset, right? Even though he has a round face, the facial expression gets pretty square. So these types of design languages are utilized in a way to really kind of showcase and drive not only story, but also the character development. Let's look at some other examples here, guys. This was one of the films that DreamWorks produced. Actually, one of my favorite films visually. This is called Croods, and Croods it's about a family who's kind of like a caveman type family, and they have a lot of family dynamics that they kind of learn along this journey. And there's a lot of tension between the father and the daughter, and it's a growing kind of narrative story and plot. But when I was looking at the environment design, there's a lot of things that were so unique and put in a context that we were able to visually understand. So what's interesting about these environments in particular is that these actually are very reminiscent of coral reef, right? You look at this stuff, and these look like coral reef. And I'm pretty sure, whether this was intentional or not, but the designers over at DreamWorks were obviously inspired by something. And the first thing that came to our minds, you know, and I think what most audiences connected with, was the fact that this was so much like what we've seen before, but put in a different context, made it a really interesting design language, a form language. And this is a picture of a coral reef that I wanted to bring in. And just look at the similarities here, right? We're used to coral reef being underwater, but now it's put in a different context where it's in this barren kind of, you know, deserty type landscape, that it makes it a very interesting environment. Let's look at a couple of other things here. I wanted to showcase this example here. I thought it was fantastic, of this creature here. And this creature is a whale, right? But look at this whale. It's out of water. It's completely not in what we think is an underwater whale. And also the shape language, the way they presented it with the moss growing on here, obviously it has kind of the barnacles, but it looks like a rock, right? And the first time that you see this creature appear in the movies, you think, wow, these are some big boulder rocks that are kind of moving around. But you look closely and they're humpback whales, literally. So I thought that was a really interesting twist on the design. And I love these sketches that were done by Nicholas Weiss. And you know, I thought he showed not only a variety of unique shape design and also just variation, but the concepts that he created with, you know, trying to come up with really cool rock formations were so unique, right? And I know a lot of times we sit there and we think to ourselves, how do I make something look cool, right? It's like the number one most challenging thing that we can confront, right? And I truly believe that in order to achieve or have a good idea or come up with a good design or drawing, you have to have a really good idea, right? And Nicholas, he's someone that is very observant and very aware of nature and his surroundings, and I believe that he looked at lava formations. And if we just Google that, I just want to show you guys some examples of the types of lava formations that are very reminiscent to what he created. So look at this, guys. Like, look at those rock formations. That is so close to what he actually drew here. And the language and the movement and the shapes and everything is actually being translated very clearly in some of his drawings here. And these are some of the shapes that he himself was most likely inspired by to come up with these cool designs, right? Otherwise, you know, when we look at this stuff, we're just scratching our heads like, how in the heck did he come up with these ideas? It's so crazy, right? So, you know, it's not to say that, you know, he doesn't have great ideas generating from his own mind. I'm sure he does, but something will always, you know, you will always be able to generate some ideas when you look at really, really great reference or really great inspirational sources. I'd like to show you guys a few more examples here. Our favorite, Star Wars, right? For all the nerds out there, including myself, I could not show Star Wars. The reason why I wanted to show Star Wars is not because I'm a huge Star Wars geek, which I am, but also just the designs. Why do we remember Star Wars so much, right? And the X-Wing and the Death Star and all these other vehicles that they showed in the movie franchise. Like, why do we remember them? Why are they so iconic? And if we really break it down to its core, it's the shapes. Look at how simple these shapes are. I mean, this is literally a triangle, right? If we look at it in profile, it's literally a triangular shape vehicle. And we look at this vehicle here, it's literally a circle with a triangular tip. right? And this design here, if you look at it in profile, front dead on, it's literally X, right? That's why they called it the X-Wing. Duh, right? But it was so simple that the audience, the people that were watching it from the movie theaters and from home, were able to just connect with this and look at it like, oh yeah, I totally understand that design. I get it. It's simple. It's circular. It's I can remember it, and that's the key component to really good design, is understanding how to make something really, really clear, iconic, and very easily recognizable, right? So that's what I'd like to share with you guys today, and hopefully in this demonstration, you guys will be able to pick up on that and utilize that in your designs. Just one more example before we get started. I know this is a little bit out of context, or it might seem like it, but I want to talk about car design. The reason why I want to talk about this car design is, one, BMWs, sexy cars as they are. A car like this, some of the car designers were actually inspired by sharks. And if you look at it, BMW has always had a unique aesthetic, and you always wonder, like, man, it's got this really cool feature in the front. It's sharp, it's angular, it has all these really cool wisping lines. It has just such an aggressive feel. And if you look at sharks also have that same angularity and the same pattern and gesture. And that's something that I would like to talk and cover today as well, is how do we analyze this? How do we get this across into our own designs, right? And that's going to be the lesson for today. So, with that said, let's get started, guys.